Good morning, everybody. We are live betting for breakfast, NBA playoff edition in full swing. I'm Mark Drumheller here with Dave Gleckner, and we have a great show lined up today, back after taking off last weekend. So plenty to discuss in the NBA playoff landscape. But before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Very important. That is the best way to support us. Heat Ratio Sports Network. Get over to the YouTube channel and smash that like button. And we appreciate all the support. And give us your plays. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you like in what I think has been one of the most fascinating NBA playoffs in recent years. I mean, just so many different storylines that are coming out. You have so many good teams like the Lakers being bottom seeds and surprising some people. Home court advantage after not having it playing in the bubble last year. Dave, what are your initial thoughts about this year's NBA playoffs?
Well, what it's telling me is every dog is live. Maybe not the Wizards, but almost every dog is live. The Celtics last night with the 7th seed. You're watching the Grizzlies pump in a win in Utah, a place where nobody can win. You're watching LA, as we've already seen, up 2-1 as a 7th seed. 6th seed Mavericks up 2-1 against the Clippers. The 6th seed not too live in the East, but that's not what we normally see in the NBA. It's feast in the first round, right? And you got 3-4, very large underdogs right now that are very live. So it's been really cool, really interesting to see. And I think maybe some of that's the balance from the regular season, not having some fans, the injuries, the COVID situations, Lakers being in the 7th seed, absolute joke. I mean, but it is what it is. So you really got a high variance right now, which is cool. It's good for fans.
Yeah, I mean, very unpredictable in the sense that, we had so much, I guess variance is the best way to describe it during this season because, not only was it, hey, we're coming off the bubble, right? But we also, a lot of these players, we have a shortened season, a condensed season where a lot of players were resting. We had the situation of Brooklyn where you have a team that is filled and packed with stars that didn't even play together all year, really. You know what I mean? You can count probably on both hands how many games these teams played together. So, how do you handicap that on a night-to-night basis? So not a lot of familiarity. You go into these playoff series and you see two teams and they played 3 times during the season and none of them were at full strength any of the times they played. So, there is a lot of variance that way. And I think, as handicappers, it's important to kind of, be able to kind of see through that and kind of, try and predict, what these teams do best and how they match up with each other. And it's, it's a different season, really, the NBA playoffs. I mean, depth really doesn't play as much. A lot of teams kind of shortening their rotations. It's more, star-centric, so to speak, as we get down to, the season actually being on the line. So just so many good storylines. So many, starting with our Sixers, right? The Sixers, the number 1 seed in the East. Taking on the Wizards. And, again, they're on today. I can't wait for this game. And I think it's critical seeing with Brooklyn losing last week that they handle business and handle business efficiently against this Wizards team because rest is important. We talked about it being a condensed season, teams kind of resting during the season a lot. But I think that matters. And I was very happy to see Brooklyn, having their series extended against the Celtics last night.
That was awesome. The unbeatable, right? No one's going to beat the Nets. Well, guess what? A banged up Boston team that, actually showed some heart, showed how they can take a little bit of soul out of, everybody's favorite. It was pretty cool to see Kyrie. Kyrie looked like he didn't even want to be there. He didn't even want to be on planet Earth right now. What's up, Cease? My man. Philly Phil, I'm going to call that guy forevermore. But
Philly Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, hey, it was cool. No way, no how am I a Boston fan? No, but last night seeing them just take it to the that team and showing that you can actually beat them at their game, which is scoring. I mean, look, last night Brooklyn went up 19-4, something crazy. You thought the game, the series, everything was over in the first 5 minutes, and Boston came back. So they're going to stretch that one out a little bit. They won't win it, but It was cool seeing.
Yeah, and obviously the big story in that game before the game was Kyrie Irving returning to Boston, right? And he had some very strong words for the fan base in Boston, which, he's been backed up by, players on his team, even though Danny Ainge kind of came back and repeated that. And fan behavior is something, Dave, that has really taken center stage so far early in the playoffs, which is a little bit disappointing. And, I just wanted to get your thoughts on it because, not only to me is it disappointing, but I think, what really drives me nuts and what really makes my blood boil is not only that fans are behaving this way in the stands. We had the incident in Philadelphia where they poured popcorn, on Russell Westbrook, completely unacceptable. Then we have the situation, Trae Young's getting spit on in Madison Square Garden, which really just puts a black eye on, what is such a great storyline with the Knicks, getting the playoff game in Madison Square Garden, celebrating in the streets. Like, I hate the Knicks, but I love to see that stuff.
That's it. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, but, and then, they got to talk about the fans acting up and spitting on people. But what really drives me nuts is I feel like the media has perpetuated this idea that this is somehow related to the pandemic. That, like, oh, well, if you coop all these people up and you let them out, they're going to act like this. And that's insanity to me. Like, I just think that, like, this just shows a lack of accountability from the fans, that the fans feel entitled, that they can treat these athletes however they want because they paid X amount of dollars for a ticket. And I think it's ridiculous, man. Like, I really do. Like, I think it's crazy that the fans are acting like this. I don't think it has anything to do with the pandemic. I just think people are spoiled and they know that there's a shield there so that they can act up.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. Totally accurate on it. It's just, an absolute joke. That's right, my man, Arroyo. But, the entitled part is what you're – and to get kicked out, to then get your season tickets revoked and banned from the stadium, you think they care? You think that, like, that's why it's going to keep happening. Those guys will just turn on their big screen TV, hang out with their friends, and they're fine. They got on TV. They made a name for themselves. Like, it's really bad. These fans, it's awful right now. Now, what I will say is I do think 2% of it is a little bit needs to be on the players. And I only say this from this sense. Bradley Beal was out there trying to goat the fans all during game one while he was getting their face beat in. He wasn't even paying attention to his team. Trae Young was doing that, that talk all game one, even to the point that the mayor came out and had to start, talking trash on him. In no way, no how did they deserve anything they say. But, you rile up one of these fan bases. I mean, it's not fair. It's not right. But sometimes you just got to go about your business, in my opinion.
Yeah, now, like, listen, I agree with you to an extent. Like I don't know the degree of what Trae Young was saying or things like that, but I think that fan-player interaction is great. But I definitely think that there's a line, like the situation that happened in Utah. It's happening in almost every playoff series.
Yeah.
It's just disgusting, like the things that these people are saying. And I am all for heckling players, and you know what I mean? But there's a line there, and I think the fans are acting entitled because they know there's a line. And, listen, if I was the security guard holding back Russell Westbrook, I don't know, man. I might have slipped and let him go. To be honest with you, like I'm kind of a big proponent that, like, I think you need a Ron Artest every now and then to go in the stands and hold these fans accountable.
Yeah, it's not a bad point. The fact is, though, the player can't win. Then if he does anything, he's bored for the rest of his life. He gets the scar. The fan can go on and live his life, behind and probably a lawsuit. So it ain't worth it, but something has to happen. There is no doubt about it. Something has to happen. I mean, for it to come in that small of a sample size and now just grow exponentially over just a couple of days, I don't think there's anything to the pandemic and people being held back. I just think, like you said, it's the energy, it's the playoffs, and it's entitled fans thinking that they're like, they paid their money, they can do whatever they want, and it's so wrong.
I don't know, man. Like, I know this is a wild take, but I just let the players go up there and confront them. Let it be what it's going to, like, step in if it gets physical. But, like, I think the fact that they know that the players aren't getting up there is an issue. And I think that like you talked about it, like you revoke their season tickets, right? You do all this stuff and it doesn't matter. They don't care because they're like, I'll never come back. It's not going to stop it. How do you stop it? Like you take away that shield, I think, in a sense. Now, I'm not saying, like, just turn it into a melee, but I'm saying that, like, hey, you know what? Like, if Russell Westbrook's thing was, if he did that to me he would never do that to me on the street because there'd be consequences, right? And, like, I think if that player goes up to the stands, like gets loose and goes up to that stands, like I think the next guy's probably not going to throw popcorn.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we got to start putting up boards like in hockey.
They allow hockey fights, right?
Yeah, well, they don't go to the stands necessarily, but maybe we got to put up boards. I don't know.
Sometimes they do, right?
Well, it's been a while since Ty Domi pulled one into the penalty bench, but yeah, sometimes they do. Sometimes listen. It's awful. I'm glad that you can rank them in severity all you want. Every single one of those people should never attend another NBA game, and that's good.
Yeah, I agree.
There should be more penalty behind it.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of accountability. You know what I mean? Like from the fans, I feel like, and I agree. Ban them, get them out of there, dude. You can't really have that. There's definitely a line. I want that fan player interaction. Like, listen, there was nothing better than growing up Reggie Miller, Madison Square Garden, like all that stuff. Like I love that. You know what I mean? But like, there's got to be a line, man, and they got to draw the line.
And it doesn't much happen in football. I mean, you get fights in the fans, but not like with the players because they're so far away, right? And they're all raised away. I mean, it seems to be in one sport, and it's disgusting. And the NBA really needs to take a strong look at this, at how they can really temper that situation.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. But let's get back to the games from last night.
Boy.
So we talked a little bit about Boston and Brooklyn. I knew something was up. I think you were on Boston, if I was correct, last night. I was on the under, which was my only loss of the night. But I just expected – I kind of got it wrong because I expected Boston to be competitive, and I thought if they were going to be competitive that they would have to kind of slow things down. When in reality, I think that their path to success was just letting Jason Tatum cook. And that was really like him throwing up 50. And that was really, their path to victory was just letting Tatum take over and kind of do his thing. I was happy to see it. I was surprised that the game went over, but I kind of knew early on that my bet was, dead in the water. What did you like out of Boston going into that game? And what do you think their chances? I mean, in the series, it's back on the board. They put it back on the board, the series. Obviously, Brooklyn, minus, they're like a, minus, 10,000. I think they are. Boston plus 1,300, 13-1 to win the series. Obviously, we don't think the Celtics have a prayer here, but do you think they have a chance to keep it competitive in Game 4?
Yes, and part of that is Boston's letting down all the COVID rules. They were speaking about on the game last night. They're going to have a packed house, 17,000. I think the energy in there. I think you got guys like Marcus Smart, Tristan Thompson that just bring that type of energy to the crowd by, whether it's a defensive play or, a good pass. They're not going to sit there and dominate the game offensively. But I think those energy makers and bringing in that big crowd and coming off that win, they will be in the game in Game 4. Now, do they win? No, I think late. I think Brooklyn will pull away. But yeah, I do think they're live in Game 4. What I liked about them last night, and it was simply put, and I'll be honest, I look at this a lot with different sports. When you get your face beat in, I tend to look at you the next game. And that spread was, I think, slightly inflated due to them getting their face beaten in Game 2. 7.5 at home, being on, how interested was Brooklyn going to be last night? It was like one of those, I took a stab at it based upon the metrics from the last couple of games. I'm going to be doing the same today. I'm going to be honest with you when we go back down and look at Miami. So for me, it was just more of looking at the emotional roller coaster, which team could be high and low and trying to bet off that.
Yeah, and it's really like I knew something was up when like the reports started coming out, and it's like 95% of the money line bets are on Brooklyn, 93% of the spread bets are on Brooklyn, and I'm just like this can't be too easy. And I think that was kind of, the public perception was, I think that the spread was like 8 both games, and 1 or 2 it was very similar. It was close to like a double-digit spread, and Brooklyn, covers with no problem. And I think so. It's almost like, all right, now Game 3, they're going on the road. How high can you make this number? You know what I mean? And you can't make it high enough because the public's just going to come in on Brooklyn. But now we get Boston bouncing back. So, I think it's opened at like 6.5, I think, in some spots, Game 4. So they kind of lowered it a little bit to see if they could, get some of that, balance in there. But I agree with you. I think that, I don't know if – I mean, they could be competitive, but I don't know if I'd be willing to pull the trigger on Boston in Game 4?
I'm not sure yet either. I'm gonna have to wait until game time, but it's a game I'll watch, no doubt.
Yeah.
I think it's a slippery line because it's obviously one where Brooklyn can now be fired up after losing and come out and just pound them in. But it's also like Kyrie does not look like he wants to be there. And you've played on teams, we've played on teams. You got one guy that's not bringing the same energy as the other four. It can weigh the whole team down. So I'm really going to look at Kyrie during warmups and some other things coming up to that. He was very defensive in his remarks going up there. That was another reason I was a little nervous what Kyrie we'd see. Now I know what Kyrie we saw. If that's the same one in Game 4, the Boston is my play.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I wouldn't mind seeing maybe little fractures, right? Little fractures within the Nets with that big three. If they're not on the same page, if we have a disinterested Kyrie Irving in Game 4 and Boston's able to tie up that series. Obviously, as Sixers fans, that's exactly what we want to see. Let's talk about another game that we saw. Very exciting. This is a game that I got right, was on the Hawks laying the points against the Knicks at home. And to be honest with you, Dave, I just think Atlanta's the better team. I think they got the best player in the court, Trae Young. And I really think, I heard Jay Croucher, who is the lead trader at PointsBet, talking about how they line the Knicks the most favorably with the strongest home court advantage out of every team in the playoffs. They line it at like 3.5 points, where most teams are like, 1.5, 2 points, if that. But they said that home court advantage is so strong with the Knicks playing in Madison Square Garden in a playoff situation, that I just felt like them going to Atlanta, like we saw Atlanta beat them in Game 1. They lost Game 2. Now they get to go home. I thought first game home in front of the home crowd, Trae Young, I thought that was an easy one.
Yeah, and you got me on that one. I kind of rode the Knicks momentum after Game 2. I thought Game 1 might have been slightly aberration. Young Knicks not quite ready. Randall didn't step up. Barrett was on the bench in the last possession. And then they stepped up and played well in Game 2. And obviously they have a veteran in Derrick Rose that right now is probably the best player on the Knicks. Crazy to say that, they have all these other,
It ain't Randall.
Yeah, it ain't Randall right now. And so I kind of was riding that momentum a little bit. But, yeah, I'm seeing it too like you. I'm starting to see – so I lost on that one. But I'm starting to see the Hawks as for me, I do think they're pretty close, just based upon the Knicks' defensive prowess. But the Hawks just want it more. I feel like that they're taking that underdog role really seriously, and they're taking that disrespect role. And they're dangerous. They're tough. I think they're getting through the series. What I will say about the Knicks home court, it's interesting that you say that. Well, I do believe, in respect and opinion like that, to juice up because they think it's a hard home court. I think as an opposing player, I think you get raised up and you play so much better in the Garden because you know the history behind it, the fans that are there, and you can't wait to beat that team like Trae Young did in Game 1. So it's an interesting angle to juice them up because of the advantage. But at the same time, when you get to play when these teams are that good in the playoffs, I think they want to be there and beat the Knicks, and I think they play even a little better.
Yeah, very well could. I mean, it depends on how you slice it, right? But they definitely, when the lines come out, like when this thing comes back to New York, when it makes it back to New York, I think that, we're going to see the Knicks, it's going to be reflected in the line, when it comes back there, regardless of what happens in Game 4. And it might be 3-1 by the time it goes back there. I think this Atlanta team is definitely tough. Dan Green checking in, Flyer and Ice. The Flyers and Ice.
What up, buddy?
Yeah, dude. Awesome show. They just had Jim Jackson on, man. Awesome show for you hockey fans. We got to get those guys on here to talk NHL playoffs. But sticking with the Knicks and Atlanta, let's talk about the series lines, how they moved, right? So this thing opened with Atlanta being a slight favorite at -120, Knicks +100. Moved all the way from -275 after Game 1 when they got that victory. And then, of course, when they lost Game 2, dropped to -143. But after the win last night, it has soared. The Knicks are +245 to win the series. Atlanta -335. Any value on the Knicks in this spot? I think you know where I'm at just because of the way I've kind of talked about these two teams so far. But somebody who backed the Knicks last night, do you see any value in this big number?
I actually do. I mean, so Tom Thibodeau, let's not throw out what they did down the stretch in the regular season to get themselves cemented into the 4 seed. They have the best defense, as a team unit in the NBA. I think he'll figure it out. I think this one gets to 7. So I think there is value. I think they get one in Atlanta. It's going to be hard to come back and, you get to 7 using all that energy to get there. We'll see. And obviously, Trey's already shown he's there for the spotlight, the big lights in Game 7. Nothing bigger than that in Madison Square Garden. So it would be awesome if we get there. I do think there's value. And I'm not sticking a fork in the mix, but I'm starting to come around on your side and see the value in Atlanta and do think they are the slightly better team. That doesn't mean that.
Yeah, but if it gets to 7, I mean, it's going to be tough to win at Madison Square Garden in 7. Like, that's kind of.
Say the Knicks win in 6, like down in Atlanta in Game 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you love Atlanta and the comeback, getting, the points will be inflated. There'll probably be a 3-4 point dog in MSG Game 7 with the best player.
Yeah.
Then Atlanta's value in that game. So it all depends where the Knicks win.
Yeah, we got to see how this one's moving. Let's talk about the nightcap last night. Very, very interesting series. Clippers and Mavericks, and the Mavericks go up 2-0, win in LA, sweep them in LA, come back home, and Luka just goes bananas to start off the game. I think they were up 23-8 at some point. It was like 8-0 early, and it was like 23-8. For somebody who was on the Clippers, I was very worried early on. But then once I saw the Clippers being able to regain their footing by halftime, I thought it was okay. I thought this is a classic bounce back spot for the Clippers. Now, going into this series, I wanted to see Game 1. My whole handicap on this, when I was on Fox Sports The Gambler with Sean Brace, we talked about this series. I said I like Dallas in Game 1 because I'm not sure the Clippers can just turn on the light switch. Like, everybody always waits for the Clippers to just turn on the light switch. They're like, okay, well, they punted on these last 2 games against Houston and the Thunder, and none of that matters. And I thought that Dallas, a team that came into the playoffs very hot, playing their best basketball this season, I thought that, hey, this is a good dichotomy of these 2 teams. Like, one team's coming in with all the momentum, one team just thinks they can turn on the light switch and win. And we didn't see it happen. So after I actually bet Dallas live at the end of the game when it was like 100-100 in Game 1, because I just walked into the bar in Virginia, was able to punch it in. Got the win there, liked Dallas. And once they won that Game 1, I liked them in the series, but I haven't bet them in the series yet. I saw them win Game 2, then the number got too high. And now the Clippers win Game 3, and I kind of like the number at -108 to win the series. I think they can win this series. I think they have the better coach in Carlisle, who's going to make better in-game adjustments. I don't think he's going to lose to the Clippers 2 years in a row. And I don't think that they can stop Luka, to be honest with you. I'm the biggest Kawhi Leonard fan out there. I don't think they have an answer for Luka when it comes down to it.
Yeah, they do. They do have answers. Those guys just aren't showing up. I mean, this team was supposed to be built around their wing defense with Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. You got Pat Bev out there. Pat Bev's too small. I think if you've seen some highlights of Luka taking it right to him, he's yelling at the refs, too small. But then they got the Morris brothers. Like, they have this phenomenal lineup of wing defenders, and they can't figure it out. That's what's been pretty cool. Like, Kawhi's supposed to be the defensive stopper, right? Well, I don't see him on Luka a lot. You mentioned something earlier, and this Ty Lue thing, I don't know, man. I'm not a huge fan of his coaching style. He won with LeBron, obviously, but LeBron coached that team. So I think they have the weapons. I don't think they're using them right.
Yeah, very well could. I mean, that's the thing is, if I was coaching the team, right, and I'm not saying that they would be successful if that was the case, but Kawhi would be on Luka all day.
All day.
I mean, all day. There would not be a play. There wouldn't be a second Luka's on the court that Leonard's not on top of him. Because you just can't trust these other guys. Like, let's be honest, you can't trust them, right? You got to put your best on their best. But it's very, to me, it's very interesting because I think the Clippers are the most overvalued team left in the field. When you look at the lines, like when I look at these series lines, Clippers opened up at -375. Lose Game 1, go down to -145. We're still favored after losing Game 1 at home. And then even after losing Game 2, Dallas was only minus 250. Clippers were a plus 200 to win the series. So I just thought that was kind of crazy. And right now, both teams, at minus money, minus 114 on the Clippers to win the series, and Dallas minus 108. And I'm going to bet Dallas to win this series, but I'm going to wait to see how this moves to see if I can actually get plus money if those Clippers backers start coming in feeling like the Clippers are back before we hit game 4.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, look at game 1. Luka scored 16 of his 31 versus Zubac, a center for the Clippers. He was most guarded by Nicholas Batum the whole game. Like, they mixed it up a little more in game 2 and more in game 3, but until I can be confident that they're going to sell out and try and stop that man going to do damage against them. And I really like Dallas to win the series. I just think they have, we keep going back to this heart thing, but I don't see it with the Clippers. They seem like a mixed bag of they just don't seem to have that chemistry. And they didn't have it last year, and they admitted it. And now here you go again. They go down 0-2. Yeah, they got a big win last night. That's bound to happen versus 2 even teams. Long term, I like Dallas. I would put money on Dallas to win this series.
Yeah, I like them too, man. And I don't think don't get me wrong. Clippers are a better team, more talented team. I got it, but 2-0 at home, that's a big hole to climb out of.
They go out of 5.
Right. So that's the thing is they have to win. Right. You have to win 4 out of 5. With 3 of those games on the road.
Yeah.
So, they already won 1, but can they continue to do that? I don't think they're that good. I don't think they're playing good enough basketball to do that. So I'm going to bet Dallas. I'm just going to wait to see if this moves to see if I can get a better number. But definitely going to bet Dallas on the series. But let's move on to today's games. Today's slate starts with the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks, which is a series that I've gotten all wrong since the beginning. Not afraid to admit it. I like the Heat in this series. Didn't buy the Bucks. Today's matchup is lined -5 for the Bucks. Traveling to Miami. Over under is at 221.5. And I don't know what to think, man. I just think Jimmy Butler has come up so small in this series. Obviously, he doesn't get the amount of support that he got in the bubble from, some surrounding players, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, all those guys. But I expected more out of Butler, and I'm just shocked that they have such trouble scoring to me. It's unbelievable. Bam has just been awful. They just can't score offensively. They look so ugly, and it's nobody wants to shoot.
It's crazy. The Bucks are one of the worst defensive teams in the league. I think Miami scored 94 or 84 the other game. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Bucks, they don't mind you taking shots. They want to just get it and run a transition and score a lot. They're not focused on the defensive end, and he can't do anything offensively. You're right. Who knew that after game 1, double overtime, Chris Middleton hitting the game winner, that we'd be sitting here today 3-0 with 2 blowouts in a row, right? We really thought this was a balanced series. And going back even to the regular season, that's 4 in a row with Milwaukee over Miami now. But for me, and I will take this value, I talked about it earlier with that kind of roller coaster swings emotionally that you can have in just a little playoff series. And for me, years past, Milwaukee has not taught me that they're ready to go out there and sweep this team today. They just they can't just get there for 4 games straight and just mentally focus versus these teams and close it out. The loss of Dante DiVincenzo for the rest of the playoffs will hurt. They still got their big 3 in Holiday, Antetokounmpo, and Middleton. But today, I think I do see the heart of a champion more in Eric Spoelstra. I think he's going to, he's a Hall of Fame coach already. I think he's going to make the adjustments today. I'm nervous to say that they'll totally get there and win that game, but I like them with the 5. Drums, it feels to me a lot like Brooklyn-Boston last night. This thing opened at 3.5, has rose up to 5, 90% of the money on the Bucks. It just seems like a valuable play for me. I'm going with the Heat today. I know they haven't shown me much of why I should, but I'm going against the public, and I'm going with a little bit of that emotional roller coaster. The team that made the finals last year to not go out like dogs.
Yeah, I like it, man. I think the DiVincenzo I think that injury hurts. I think that this is a Bucks team that does not have the depth that they had last year because they kind of sold out for holiday, right? They had to kind of like reconstruct their team to be more top heavy, which makes sense because you get into the playoffs, you shorten your rotations, you want the best 5 out there the most, and then you just sell out and try and win a championship. So I get it, but I also like. I don't know, man. Like I don't know if I can trust Miami here. Like I get I really got to grit my teeth if I'm going to take the Heat here. I took them in Game 3. I had them win the series in the beginning of the series, which is just a dead ticket. And I don't know if I can go to the well with them again. It might be a pass for me. The total to me is interesting, Dave, because initially the first couple games, it total closed at 227 in Game 1 in that overtime game, which ended up going way under, right? And then, we saw it go down to 223.5, ended up going over. The Bucks scored whenever they wanted. I think they put up over 130, 140 points, something ridiculous like that. And, now we're seeing after Game 3, the blowout, where it was kind of lined the same, 224. Now we're seeing it down to 221. And I think that is influenced by, the market's lack of confidence in the Miami Heat to be able to actually put the basketball through the hoop on a consistent basis.
Yeah, no, and listen, I don't blame you for having your doubts. This is just one of those situations where I'm going to be in the 10% side. Yeah, Miami, look, they still got Dragic. They still got Hero. They still got Duncan Robinson. They still, are a very good 3-point shooting team. They're a team that finished, I think, 17-10 down the stretch, something, pretty formidable for them to get back in the playoff mix. And again, the Eric Spoelstra factor, where I am very disappointed is Jimmy Butler. I'm with you. It looks like that guy is either running on fumes or he's doing the Jimmy of what Jimmy does sometimes and starts just being very passive because he doesn't like how they're going.
Right. Like very passive and not very aggressive. And I don't know. Very disappointing to me. I'm a Jimmy Butler guy, man, but this is where he's got to step up and carry these guys. And I don't see it. He doesn't even want to shoot, it seems like. I don't know. I mean, it's ugly looking. And I think that this is a big game for Spoelstra. Like, that was one of the reasons I like the Heat in the series is because I thought that, they had the advantage with, him and Budenholzer. I'm just shocked at this series, to be honest with you. So I don't know, man. Maybe I will play a little bit of Heat today. Maybe I'll just die on my sword here with the Heat.
Try and get that series ticket back. Just throw it
right. Try and get the series. Well, that's what I did at Game 3. That's what I tried to do at Game 3, and it didn't come home. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Am I going to back Jimmy Butler again? Lord have mercy. I got a little time to figure it out, but the series is off the board. So they took it off the board with the series.
No team come back from 3-0.
I think I'm gonna maybe I will bet the Heat today. All right, we'll see. Let's move on.
Come around the Macho Man. Come on, baby.
Oh, I love it, dude. Beat the Heat, man. So let's move on to let's hold off on the Sixers and let's go with the Nuggets and the Blazers.
Yeah.
Or is it Nuggets and Blazers?
Yeah, they're next. Anyway. They're the 4:00 game. Yep.
Perfect. Nuggets and Blazers. Nuggets getting 4.5 here at Portland. This is a game where this is a series where I was on Portland. I like them in the series. Don't have a bet to win the series, but I did play them in Game 1. Cashed in. Nuggets plus 4.5 at the Blazers. I think everybody's expecting after the Game 3 loss, the Blazers to bounce back. Over under 227.5. I mean, Denver's shooting like crazy, man. I don't know. Like, if we're waiting for them to kind of come back to the mean, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Well, it's interesting that you say. I got a lot of look into this game. First 3 games in this series have all gone over the point total, and they've started around the 227 mark, and Vegas still doesn't want to move it off the 227. So very interesting tidbit there. I'm not touching the total, just letting you know, 3 in a row over. Jokic, 36 last game, Dame 40. Like, it just feels like that's an over. It does. But, more importantly, like you said, Denver did something in the first game. They shot 11 for 36 from threes, 31%. Yeah, they really couldn't get it going. But more importantly, they only got to the free throw line 8 times. Since then, they've been the free throw line 30 times in game 2, 27 in game 3 for an average 28.5 a game. They've changed the series by being more physical and going to the basket. For the Blazers, I mean, they are what they are. We know they're a very good three-point shooting team, 5th overall in three-point shooting percentage in the NBA, 2nd in three-point shots attempted and made. They shoot with a high volume. And really what got them is in game 2, they go 16 of 33, which is under their percentage. They were about, in game 3, they went 14 of 45, 31% at their home. They were throwing up 45 shots. Not unheard of for the Blazers, but not being able to make them at their own home gym is really what cost them the game and lost by 5. So then you look at Denver, shot 20 of 38, 53% from threes in game 3, and you can really see where the difference is. Denver made their threes, Portland didn't. Denver got to line, Portland didn't. So Portland needs to do a little adjustment in this game. I think they need to get a little bit more of the pick and roll game going, move the ball down low, use Jurkic, use some of their big men, Cantor when he comes in. And I do like Portland. 4.5 is a little steep, though, because this is such a close competitive series. And at any point, you could get Jokic going off. You could get, Porter going off. But I will take the Blazers minus the 4.5 tonight to even this thing up. I just think it's their time to make that adjustment that the Nuggets did after game 1.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you because I do think that I can't see the Blazers going down 3-1 in this series at home this way. And I do think the number is steep. And I think that it reflects the right side, right? I think it reflects that the Blazers are a strong play here. I just think that they need to give Dame some help, man. Like those other guys need to shoot better. I think he's out there doing his own. Covington's been terrible. They need to be better. You know what I mean? And hopefully that comes together today. But I'm probably going to be with you there on the Blazers. I'm surprised the Nuggets are playing as well as they are, shooting as well as they are. But let's hope that regresses back to the mean and we can get a Portland win today. And hopefully they win in style, man, and we don't have to sweat this one out.
It'd be great. I mean, the Nuggets are 2-5 in their last 7 against the spread. Well, their 2 wins were the last 2, but they had 5 straight ATS losses before then. I just think this one, it's a regression to the means. This is supposed to be a 6-7 game series. I think we get there. I think we're going back to Denver tied up.
Yeah, I think so too. So let's move on to the Sixers, right? That's what it's all about. We are excited. Number 1 seed, the Sixers laying 6 points against the Wizards. We got a total of 228. Sixers in complete control of this series. If you look at the way it's lined, I think they're, again, minus 10,000. And, the Wizards, I think, opened up after the game 2 loss at plus 1,600. It's always all the way up to plus 2,000. I think people know it's over for Washington. I think the only question is do we get a sweep here from the Sixers? Sixers typically have had some letdowns on the road, right? Do we expect to see that today in game 3?
I don't. And one of the big reasons I necessarily don't is because it's just such a bad matchup for Washington.
I agree.
The Sixers' strengths are every bit of Washington's weaknesses, and Washington's strengths are every bit of, the Sixers have those strengths too. They're very good at, guarding the perimeter, but also just containing the paint. And Washington, people were talking, they're shooting 27% from 3 in the series. That's not like Washington. Well, guess what? They're 28th in the NBA in 3-point field goals made on the season. They're not a very efficient 3-point shooting team, and they don't put a lot in. I think that's the one area. If you're looking at a team that can beat the Sixers, like Utah had done, like Milwaukee did in a couple of games, it has to be from the 3-point line and then going in. And it has to also be the ability to guard Joel Embiid with not just 1 but 2 players. And Washington can't do that. They just those 2 things I think would give the Sixers problems. Washington has no answers for either of those. They can't shoot the 3. They can't guard Embiid. Good night. I just think it's a terrible matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you here. I think Sixers are the side even on the road. You always have to kind of you're never 100% comfortable taking the Sixers laying this kind of number on the road, but I think that they are dialed in and they're focused, and I think that Brooklyn losing last night will provide even more motivation for them to come out and not to slip up and not to make this a series, right? They see an opportunity here where if they can sweep this team, they're going to get some rest and before the next round. That Knicks Atlanta series is probably going to go 6-7 games, right? Like we talked about. So I think it's a great opportunity. I think Doc Rivers has them dialed in. Our guy Adam says Sixers by 30, man. I can't.
Yeah, I think so, Adam. I mean, listen, what translates? Like when you're looking at like you got to go home the road and then you got to like, game to game. The things that could maybe fluctuate on you, obviously free throws, obviously a shooting percentage. But here's what the Sixers are doing in this series. They're actually doing 10 steals per game, 9.5 blocks, 10.5 offensive rebounds per game. Those are hustle effort stats. That's not going to change for us, this team. I really think as they're going to have the effort today, they're going to put up those types of numbers that really, tilt the possession game. When you can tilt the possession game, gain extra possessions based upon these hustle stats, I think 6 is a good number for them today. Another thing, Sixers are 13-9-2 on the road as favorites against the spread. Not a bad number. Actually coming back at almost 60%. So I wouldn't get too scared about, game 4 might scare me a little more with the number and, are they ready to close this out? But today I think they'll be up for it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was just getting ready to say that I think that game 4 has a bigger probability of being a letdown spot because it's the second game on the road, right? They've gotten sufficient rest. They gotten travel time. They get out, and it's not like they're going cross country, right? They're going down to DC to handle some business. So I think that you're right. Game 4 could be, a little more tougher than game 3. I expect them to come out focused today. Before we move on to the nightcap, real quick, Finals MVP odds. We know LeBron James is the favorite, obviously, there with the Lakers and the way they're playing and how aggressive he looked the other night. But Giannis plus 525, Joel Embiid plus 750. Fair?
Yeah, fair. I mean,
you think so?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, listen.
I think it's a little disrespectful to Embiid.
Really? I mean, for the Sixers to be, I don't know. Maybe you think so or not, but I don't think they're necessarily better than the Lakers, and I'm not 100% sure they're better than Bucks. But in the right scenario, when they, if the Sixers sweep in Brooklyn, and then battle it for 7 games, I think it's perfect for the Sixers. So I'm okay with it. I'm perfectly fine with it.
Yeah, I think it's a little like I think that. When it comes down to it, when we get into like the Eastern Conference Finals and the finals against the West, right? If that's what we're talking about, NBA Finals with Embiid, I just think that the Sixers are built better to handle those teams than Milwaukee is, and I just think that those teams are going to have we're not seeing the Heat being able to kind of step up and answer the bell to really make Giannis uncomfortable, but I think that the teams in the West are obviously going to be able to do that. Who comes out of there, whether it's Utah, whether it's the Lakers, depending on who comes out of the West. But I think that, Embiid really is the X factor of this whole thing. When we're talking about like a team coming from the East and being able to win in the finals, like I think Durant was in there too. Like if Durant might have had better odds than both of them. Like I think he was the second, but I was just surprised. I thought that they would be lined a little bit closer.
Well, let me just ask you this. Who's the MVP of the current series between the Sixers and Wizards? Ben Simmons. It's absolutely Ben Simmons. And that's my other point with the Sixers. I'm not sure those teams will let Embiid cook. I mean, and he'll get his. Don't get me wrong. I think they know that they got to make Danny Green, Seth Curry, Ben Simmons, and Tobias Harris beat you. That's why I think his numbers might not, well justify even if they win the championship.
Reflect his impact in that series. Yeah. It's a good point. It's valid. I just think that, it's like, is Ben Simmons the MVP? Probably, but it's almost like, I guess that's because he's performing above expectation, right? Like if Embiid wasn't there versus if Ben's not there, this gets back to like how we defining MVP, right? And I think that's kind of like, the NBA doesn't really define it the way, in literal terms all the time. But
it's Ben credit too, right? He has to play that defense.
A ton of credit.
Right. Like he's also not just what he's doing on offense. This is a new Ben we're watching these last 2 games. Someone that, fired him up and shot him out of a cannon. Can he do it the whole playoffs? I don't know. We know what Ben is, but
I think he can. I mean, I'm a big believer in Ben, man, and I think that his progression and maturation this year has been awesome to see. And we're seeing a little bit more shooting. Maybe not as much as we would like to see, but Can't argue with the results on the court, man, and all the different things he does for this team and how the team is playing as a result of it, for sure. So, I think Doc Rivers is probably the best thing that ever happened to Ben Simmons, the Philadelphia Sixers organization, and us as fans, right?
Yeah, I think it's Sammy Cassell, but yeah, I'll give it Doc Rivers too. My man Sammy's out there coaching his butt off with the guards. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he's averaging a triple-double in this series. He has the right coach at the right time for him. That's why he's playing that way, and let's hope it goes the whole way.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Can't wait. So let's go Sixers today, and then the late night game, the Utah Jazz, right? Knotted up 1-1 with the Memphis Grizzlies. Donovan Mitchell's back. They covered the big number against the Grizzlies in game 2. They lost game 1 with his absence. But now they travel to Memphis, laying 5.5 as road favorites. Over under at 224. Dave, this is a game that I absolutely love. And my strongest position of the day by far on this game. And I can't wait for this one. I think it's going to be a great way to close the night. I think the Utah Jazz roll in this game. I think that, that they are a much, much superior team. I think Donovan Mitchell is going to play even more than the 26 minutes that we saw him in game 2 and have an even larger impact on this series. And I really think that, listen, Ja Morant did great in game 2. I'm not going to take anything away from him. Had 40 points or 40-something points, whatever. But this is a huge gap between these two teams. And maybe I'm a little biased because I got Utah plus 350 to win the conference. But I think the Jazz just cream them tonight in Memphis and retake control of this series. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think the Grizzlies have thrown literally their best 2 shots they could have at the Jazz. I mean, their best. They were. I mean, Ja was. I mean, what was the number that we saw? He was the first player or the youngest player ever to put up. What do you have? 47 last game. It was something like 47. It was. He's right there as one of the youngest players to ever put up that point total in NBA playoffs. He put them on their back. They shot, and they did it without shooting the 3. That's what this team does, and it scratches my head. They were 8 for 23 from the 3, and we know in NBA, this day and age, you need to be able to compete by shooting the 3, and they just took it to the rim. They were very efficient. Points in the paint. They had 62 points in the paint versus Rudy Gobert and company. That's astounding to me. Like I just don't think that can translate game to game to game. I think they shot their shot, and I'm with you. I'm looking for Utah's best game. Utah's best game, I thought, was last game until the second half. They kind of let up a little bit there and had to close out the game. I think they were up near 20 at half. Yeah, they were up 20.
Yeah, they were blowing them out. And that's kind of the thing is, so they fell asleep in the third quarter, right? And they got outscored by like 14 points. And if you take out that third quarter, and I know this is like arbitrary endpoints, right? But if you look at the first quarter and the second quarter and the fourth quarter, if you take out the nap, right, they outscored them by close to 30 points in that game. Like it's like a positive 26 point differential. So obviously they didn't come out motivated after halftime. They let the Grizzlies back in the game. And I love the Grizzlies. I love Ja Morant. I think Dylan Brooks is playing awesome. I think they're a great story, but they're not in the same stratosphere as the Utah Jazz, I don't think. And I think that's going to show tonight. And I just think that the Jazz are a team that's going to get better and better, and Mitchell's going to get more comfortable. And I think it's over for Memphis, man.
Yeah, I do. Again, the fact that you can't really rely on the 3-point shot. Made 7 in game 1, 8 in game 2. You scored 62 points in the paint in both games. You're not going to be able to make the threes. I don't think you're going to be able to dominate in the paint against this team. I think it's a great spot for Utah. I think it's a light number. And I think it's a light number because of what we've seen, the optics of it, right? Oh, Memphis got in game 1, Ja 47, game 2. They were fighting. And I think you're getting a good price on Utah tonight.
Yeah, I loaded up on them. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. It's my day is going to go how this game goes, to be honest with you. But absolutely love this one. Real quick before we get into our final 3 plays of the day, Ja Morant or Zion?
Who's better?
Yeah, who would you take?
Zion. I still will. Yeah. And a lot of it is because what I saw them start to do creatively with Zion at the end of the season. They actually had him play like the LeBron point forward. And he was I think there's more to Zion's game that we've totally seen yet. He's a physical specimen. We know. Look, Ja Morant, love him. But I'd still take Zion. I would. You?
I think it's close, man. I get a little worried about Zion and his health and how durable he's going to be throughout his career. And I don't know, man. I don't know if I would pull the trigger and say Morant, but I don't think Memphis is mad.
Yeah. No,
I think that like the Morant doing what he's doing right now is outstanding. Like it's a great story.
I could be totally off. But I think Ja opened up the season, dropped like 40, right? And I was like, oh, this is going to be Ja's year. And then he might not go on over 20 for the next like 10 games. Like he just gets these like, and maybe it's the point guard position, right? In the point guard position, you do need to get more people involved and such. But you hadn't really seen the Ja take over until, again, the last little bit of the season and now in the playoffs. So maybe I'm a little jaded right now, but I would take Zion, but it's close. Believe me, it's close.
Yeah, definitely two young stars that have tremendous futures in the NBA. But let's get into our 3 packs, man, our favorite 3 plays of the day. We're going to go across all sports on this one. So I'm going to let you kick things off, Dave. I got 3 of them. I got a little NHL action. I got some UFC action. And then, I got some an NBA play as well. But I'm going to let you lead things off.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to start off with the MLB action. This is like, I'm sorry, guys, but it's definitely an auto play. And it's anytime you see a left-handed pitcher against the Chicago White Sox, dial it in. I forget the absurdity of the numbers, somewhere in like the 25 out of the last 26 when they face left-handed pitching. But today, even more importantly, they're facing a bad Baltimore team, and you're getting a good Lance Lynn throwing against John Means. We know a little bit about John Means. He threw a no-hitter earlier this year for Baltimore. But here's the thing you really need to know about John Means. His 1.79 ERA is a little misguided. He's actually 3.24 expected ERA, almost a run and a half more. He's allowing a 186 batting average on balls in play. It's certainly low. His low K rate, I mean, he's about 8 Ks per game in this day in the MLB, or 8 Ks per 9. It is really telling you that people do put balls in play against him, and he's getting pretty lucky that they're getting fielded and they're getting outs. And now he's got to go against the juggernaut of the White Sox and that right-handed power hitting. Yeah, they don't have Robert. We know all that stories. And Jimenez, they'll be back soon. But they still are 280 batting average against left-hand pitching, second best in the MLB. And I'm getting a value. I'm getting it under minus 200. I'm getting it 175 right now. Yeah, dial me in. White Sox against John Means, game 2 of the doubleheader today. 7 innings makes it a little, those games always make it a little scary. But all they need, get a run or 2. I think Lynn could go the distance.
7 innings, man. Get your money quicker, right? That's what they say. Love it, dude. Love the White Sox play. I'm going to punch that one in myself real quick before I drop my first one, Dave. Thumbs up, thumbs down on the White Sox new uniforms. You see those threads?
I did. Can I do this? I mean,
I don't like them. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, maybe I'm like old school. I don't know. There's 2 things I don't like about them, right? Which is pretty much the whole story. I don't like how it's kind of like that charcoal black, like it has like a little tone to it, like it's not. Yeah. And I don't like the South Side thing, man. Yeah. And I get that that's like, to me, like, and that's kind of like why I struggle with some of the NBA jerseys is like, it should have the team name or the city on there. Like, I don't like these nicknames and stuff like that, man. And maybe it's, my age showing. But I'm kind of a traditionalist in that manner.
Yeah, I don't love the nickname. Don't get me wrong. The color combo is the one that I'm like, maybe, right? But yeah, I am more of a traditionalist. I like their threads back in the day with the navy blue, red, and white horizontal stripes. Give me the Carlton Fisk. It is what it is.
Oil can Boyd, baby.
Yeah.
Oil can.
How about the Miami ones where they were wearing the Miami Vice and I couldn't even tell what the hell's going on. It's like Miami Heat. It's all over the place. Like, yeah, some of this stuff is a little much. I agree.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, so I'm going to lead things off, and I am going to start with the UFC main event. You got Rosenstruck against Sakai, Augusta Sakai. Rosenstruck about a minus 138 favorite, and I think that he is the play, man. I think when you look at these 2 heavyweights, Rosenstruck just has the more diverse stand-up. He can hit you with kicks, he can knock you out, he can do a lot of different things. And he's coming off a loss to Gane, but Cyril Gane is probably he's ranked 3rd. in the heavyweight division. He's one of the up-and-coming contenders. I think we're going to hear a lot about him. So I don't think that that's a big deal that he lost that fight. You have Ngannou, who's the champ, dude, and then it's Stipe, Derek Lewis, and then it's probably gone, right? So it's really like, to me, it's not a big deal that he lost that fight. When you look at his losses, they're against tough competition. And I just think Sakai's a guy who's a little sloppy. He's not real technical. I just think he gets chewed up here by Rozenstruik on his feet. He's one of the guys that's kind of like, Rozenstruik's one of those guys that's like right below the elite. He like teeters outside of the top 5, but Sakai to me is just a kind of better than average guy, like not really anything to worry about here. So I'm going to take Rozenstruik. I'm going to lay the number, and I'm going to watch him put Sakai to sleep tonight.
I like it. I like it. You're good with the UFC. You've definitely, proving your worth there. So good pick. I'm going to go to the links today out in Colonial. There's a couple ways I was looking at this tournament and got a couple matchups live going today. I'm going to take one dog for you. And this is, I'm going against one of my, constant horses in the stable. And I'm going to take Brendan Todd today, plus 120 against Daniel Berger. The putting stats to me are probably the difference right now. Todd is putting lights out. He's 4th overall in strokes gained putting. Well, you get Berger sitting down there somewhere in the, 60, 70th range. When you're betting heads up here and you got a guy that can probably, you hate playing those down. Like even if you on your home course, you're hitting your greens, not making your putts, and you're watching this other guy struggle all around and making putts from long distance, all of a sudden you're tied. It just takes one of those to roll in. So in a heads up matchup, when the putting is that far distinct, and really where Todd's been struggling is around the green. Chipping, something that I think those greens aren't too hard to chip around. I think it's been his bunker game. That's a variance there that I think can be changed. So give me Todd today, plus 120 against Daniel Berger in a heads-up matchup round 3, going off in about an hour now.
I love it, man. I need my man Jordan Spieth to bring this one home. To be honest with you, I my other guys I was on, Fat Pat Reed, didn't make the cut. Very. What's up?
You jinxed him. He gets
I did
in the first 3, and you're already.
I was partying. I was like, oh, this is going to be a good one. We're winning all these bets. I got a couple matchups that are live, but yeah, dude, Pat Reed didn't get it done, man. So I need Spieth to kind of come through here. Got a couple other guys in play, but yeah, definitely hope we get Jordan Spieth to come home in this matchup. But awesome. Awesome matchup there. Awesome play. I'm going to go to the NHL here, and I'm going to go with the Bruins and the Islanders, right? And the Bruins, I think, are the play here. I think that they're the money line play. Just play them there, take the money. You have Bergeron, you have Marchand, you have Pasternak. They all complement each other so well. They play both ways. They can play some defense. We saw Boston. They're kind of a team that started off the season real hot, kind of died down, right? And then they added Taylor Hall. He gives them some additional scoring, 3 points in 5 games versus the Caps. And when I look at this Islander team, listen, I was rooting for him to take out the Penguins, right? Hate the Penguins, so I was happy to see that result. But the goalie was standing on his head, man. And I think Sorokin's going to be key for them. And is he going to be the goalie that kind of comes out of nowhere this year and stands on his head in the playoffs? I'm not sure. It looks like he could the way he played against the Penguins, but I'm going to bet no here. I just think that Boston's going to be too much. I like them in the series, but I like them here in game 1. I think they're more consistent. They're the better 5-on-5 team. The number you're going to get is probably around minus 180, 185, right? So it's not going to be the best return on investment, but sometimes you got to take what the market gives you, man. And I think that the Bruins are the play here. I like them. I think they show up here in game 1 and take out the Islanders.
Nice. I'm big on the Bruins. I am, but this Islanders team's got me perplexed. When they show up in these playoffs and they start playing the way they did, Pittsburgh was a slight favorite in that series, and, the Islanders look like the better team by far. I'm scared. I'll be honest with you. I'm scared. But Boston looked good. They lost game 1 against Washington, and it came back and really took over that series and showed that offense is so good. And that goalie's so good, too. So I'm going to watch how you do on this one, and then I'm torn.
That's kind of my thing with the Islanders is like they do it in spurts.
Yeah.
And they're not really consistent. And I think that could hurt them in this series. Listen, I love the fact that, the Islanders, because I hate the Rangers. So I like the fact that the Islanders are strong again, that they're like, relevant again, put it that way, because, growing up, they were relevant for me, Mike Bossy and Dennis Potvin and all those guys. And, it was fun times in the 80s, but they, when I was a kid, but I'm just not sure, man. Like I'm just not sure with this Islanders team. And I do like Boston. I think the way they play is kind of built for the playoffs. So, I think they're going to bring the cash home today.
All right. I'm gonna follow it for sure. Maybe I'll punch in something like there. I like it. So, all right, gonna finish mine with. Listen, I'm telling you guys, I probably, if I'm sitting on the NBA game that I like the most, it's the Portland Trail Blazers, but I'm not throwing that in my 3-pack. I'm going to go with one more baseball game because when I'm throwing out these baseballs, it's been decent on this show, actually pretty good. So I'm probably jinxing myself, but I'm going to go to a night game, a team that's lost 4 in a row, but I think is actually the better team in this matchup, and that's the Texas Rangers at the Seattle Mariners. You got Texas with Fulton Nevich on the mound tonight, minus 105 against Seattle. Look, he hasn't been himself. We know that since his Atlanta Braves days and his Tommy John surgery. But to only have a 6.8 Ks per 9 inning is really low for a guy that really does have a lot of gas behind himself. So I like him to kind of, pitch pretty well tonight. But more importantly, Seattle is the worst team, batting average-wise, against right-handed pitching. That's right. They're 30th in the league against right-handed pitching. So when you want to take advantage of a team like the Rangers, but you can't really hit their pitching, that really concerns me. They're hitting 204 against right-handed pitching on the season. Really bad. And then tonight they're throwing Dunn, who, I'm looking again at a guy pretty lucky with batting average of balls in plays, .194. He's a guy that is allowing a lot of balls in place. He's not a high strikeout pitcher. I think Texas takes advantage of that. They've lost 4 in a row. Like I said, they lost 5-0 the other night, which got shut out by Seattle. I like the Rangers to bounce back, end that losing streak. Minus 105 is a nice number up there for me. I got the Rangers 105 tonight.
Awesome. Love it. Rangers. Dan Green checking in, man. Barry Trotz is the Islanders team. System's phenomenal. Yeah. Going against me, so we're going to have to see, dude. I like the Bruins in game 1, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And my third play, dude, is, again, the one I loaded up on. I know we kind of talked about it already. It's Utah Jazz laying the points, and we broke it down a little bit earlier, but I think, Donovan Mitchell getting healthier, playing more minutes, and I really think that the fact that game was close at all against Memphis, a little bit of an aberration. We talked about it earlier, but I just think that Utah, the much better team. I think the number's short. I think we lay it here, and I think they roll tonight. You got to stay up late to watch your money cash, but I definitely think that it's worth your time.
Yeah, nice, man. Yeah, well, you got to stay up late to get my baseball pick, too. So let's stay up late.
Put the coffee on it and bring the money home, man. But listen, we're over an hour, dude. Listen, awesome show. Had a lot of fun breaking down these games. NBA playoffs, NHL. We're going to do some NHL stuff in the future for sure, as those playoffs are kind of getting on its way. But we appreciate everybody tuning in. Hopefully you guys cash all your bets and we make it a winning weekend. We'll be back Wednesday night with our Wednesday night golf show. We're going to be back next Saturday. Hopefully the Sixers have the brooms out. Dave's showing a big win today for our Sixers. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, the whole crew going to get it done. Thanks